So, how do you want to teach your children? That's what this workshop is all about. The philosophies of homeschooling. I'm going to go over all the different major styles of how you can educate your kids, and you can take your own personality into account as well as your kids' personalities in order to have joy in your homeschooling and have it match what you actually want to do with your kids. So your goals match what you're actually doing. It's so frustrating if you go into homeschooling and you just automatically do one style of thing just because it's always been done, like maybe the textbook approach, and then realize later that your kids hate it, they're not learning anything, that kind of thing, and that's not your philosophy. So we're going to go through all the pros and cons of the different styles of educating your kids, and so that you can get your joy back if you have been homeschooling, or you can start right if you haven't started homeschooling. Okay. So, the first style of homeschooling is the textbook approach. Now, the textbook approach is probably the most familiar to you because it's what the schools use, okay? They use textbooks and workbooks to teach all subjects, and it's highly structured, it's age-graded, it does have a scope and sequence and everything, and it feels safer to homeschool parents who are just starting off, because that's what the school system uses, okay? So one pro is that it feels safe. Also, if you're not sure about homeschooling and you're just going to take them out and try it out, it's easier to use the textbook approach and then to put them back into the school system, because once they've broken out of that and actually begun learning for real, then you can, they won't acclimate very well to get back in the schools. So yeah. Textbooks are really, really good for teaching systematic things like math, okay? So no matter what style of homeschooling you use, you'll probably use textbooks sometimes. I'm using textbooks for my high school science, for example. It's hard to actually get high school credit when you're not using a textbook for those, classes. So that's helpful. Come right in, sit down. Okay, we're talking about the philosophies of homeschooling and the different styles, so that the style matches your personality and what you hope to accomplish with your kids. Okay, so those are some of the pros that the schools use it, so it feels safe. It's great for systematic things that you're learning, especially math, okay? People who do unit studies or Charlotte Mason or other styles usually use a textbook or something similar for math because it is systematic. Okay, what are some of the cons of using textbooks? Okay, a lot of material is covered in a very superficial way. Okay, the tests cover a lot of trivia. You're memorizing a ton of little things, and then you don't actually understand those things. For example, in history, I remember studying history. I don't remember stuff about history because I just was memorizing stuff, and then I scored an A on the test, and I don't know, like all these brainy people that are actually know it in their soul, and they're able to converse with you about a novel and how it applies to the French Revolution. Well, I didn't even learn about the French Revolution. It's not in textbooks, see. So there are lots of other ways that you can learn about, for example, different time periods. If you take longer, see, this is the awesome thing about homeschooling. You have your kids with you. So if you go through from the beginning of time to the modern day, you can go much more slowly and much more in depth. You don't have to cover it so superficially, so fast that all this trivia gets, shoved into your face. So that is one con of using textbooks. Another thing is that the same topics are covered year after year, okay? That is actually only in elementary. In high school, you do biology or chemistry or whatever, and I do use textbooks for high school. And Actually, there's homeschoolers who just like textbooks better, and they've prayed about it, and it's awesome for them, okay? So after I go through all the philosophies, you might go back to textbooks, and that's fine, okay? So I am showing some bias, which obviously any person who's up here who homeschools their kids will slant towards whatever their personality is. So the same topics are covered year after year. So for example, there is like one chapter of astronomy in 2nd grade and 3rd grade and 4th grade and 5th grade, and so it doesn't go very deep, you know? Why hit the same thing like one of those rocks over the water? Why not go deeper into one thing, right? Okay, so that's another con about textbooks. It's information dense reading. Okay, it's lifeless compared to living books. We're going to talk about in a minute. Charlotte Mason has very living books. You can use like classical literature and things like that to bring a time period to life. And if you use that literature, they're just like, oh, they feel like it's like exciting, like there's action and stuff, and then they get that time period, and then you're talking about that time period, and they actually understand it, and they're able to converse. For example, we did, we did that one for the Civil War. We had, what's that book called that we read in the summer? You don't remember? That's my husband back there. Uncle Tom's Cabin. Okay, I read that to my kids, and that was a groundbreaking book. You know, Lincoln said that book changed the nation. Okay, so I read that instead of a textbook. Man, my kids were going, how dare they treat a person like that because of their skin color? They were outraged. They were crying sometimes, some of the things that happened in that book, and wow. I mean, I'm getting chills just telling you. So what I'm saying is that is a much more powerful way to teach that time period. All right, so information dense, it's hard to get through. I mean, how many of you pick up a textbook just for fun? You know, it's like you have to be alert, you know. It's not fun reading, really. Okay, it's not alive. Okay, tests and quizzes are based on trivia. Original thinking is discouraged, not always, but most of the time it's like multiple choice and things like that. So, and like I said, it's more trivia based rather than trying to internalize that, that time period or that topic in science or whatever. There's also lots of grading for the parent. So the school day lasts longer than most other approaches. So if you break out from this approach, your school day can be shorter. You can go deeper into stuff, have more joy, possibly, if that's what you feel led to do. But it does take longer to get through your school day because there's a lot in each of the books, you know, you have to get through all that. So, you know, you have a lot to check off in your day. Now, the textbook approach isn't actually the longest school day. Our next approach we're going to talk about is the longest school day, and that's classical education.